Select Travel Holidays, home of Cruise Select, and I'm here with Rachel, also from Select Travel Holidays, home of Cruise Select. You may realise, of course, that she is the owner and managing director of Select Travel Holidays, having originally started managing it in '99 before buying it for herself in 2006. She is also my mum. So thanks, Rachel, Mum, for joining us as I would say the grand finale of our virtual cruise festival. We couldn't get celebrity bookings, so I thought I'd make do with you.
Come on then, far away.
Anyway,
you know I hate these things. I'd rather be off camera and selling cruises.
Well, let's start then. So in our beginner's guide to cruising, I did use a video clip of you talking about your first cruise experiences. What was it about that cruise that you won back in the late 90s that made you and Dad fall in love with cruising? I mean, particularly given Dad's reluctance to go on it in the first place.
Well, obviously it's a totally different experience and totally different holiday to what we were used to. I think it was just the way everything flowed so well. The first thing that obviously springs to mind was the service that you receive is, personally, I think outweighs hotels. The food was excellent, and the fact is that, you know, I know it sounds a cliche, but you do get to see somewhere different every day, and we just loved it. You know, we did few regions of Italy, so we went to places that we wouldn't normally go just for a holiday. So yeah.
Why was Dad sort of like didn't want to go in the first place?
Oh, well, he thought it was stuffed in full of old people, basically, and trapped. He said he thought it would be like being in a prison. So he was probably a typical person who thought, oh God, no, not cruising. He had all the normal misconceptions.
Yeah, I discussed those.
For once in his life, he had to admit he was wrong.
Yeah, we know he hates doing that.
Yep.
I hope you remind him every time you go on a cruise.
And funny enough, was it yesterday he said to me, come on, we've got to get a cruise booked. He's really, really missing it badly.
Yeah, God, I am. So I guess, so you started working after that as a cruise specialist, like I said, back in '99, so it's been over 20 years now. Is it something that you're still as passionate as ever about, and what do you think drives you in that?
Oh no, I'm definitely still passionate about cruising. It's changed so much. I mean, if I go back 40 odd years ago, we'd probably do, when I worked in a high street agency, we probably did one cruise booking every couple of months, and it was so exciting, whoever got the cruise booking. And to be honest, there was only really, I'd only ever heard of Cunard. Fred Olsen made an appearance, P&O obviously, and then we used to sell this other one, this Russian one, CTC Cruises. So yeah, it was very different then, and it was, you know, I've lost my thread.
You were saying about how different it was 20 years ago, and you're sort of saying about,
yeah,
the question is, you know, are you still passionate about it now, and what drives you in that?
Yeah. So no, I've never lost my passion for cruising at all, because it's forever changing. It's in, you know, the small ships going to places, they're finding new places to go into. It's very exciting because of all, you know, you've got ships out there that have got for any age group. So you've got bumper cars, bumper cars and aqua parks and all sorts like that, which and then you've got all this other, they're always enhancing cruising. So it's always changing. There's always something new out there. They're always coming up with different things. So it keeps those to keep up with it. And so you're there, and the passion's certainly still there.
Okay, so cruising keeps it fresh for you.
Yes.
So I mean, you've
Definitely.
already sort of hit on some of the biggest changes to cruising. I guess you could say it's probably become, well, it's obviously become more popular. You know, 40 odd years ago, you hardly had any cruise clients, and you've mentioned obviously that cruise ships themselves have, you know, you mentioned the bumper cars and all the sort of crazy stuff they add on nowadays. So what would you say is actually the biggest changes to cruising that you've seen since you first started selling cruise?
It's got to be probably the biggest change. Obviously, the age is dropping for people cruising, but we're seeing a lot of multi-generation cruising. There's families that want to cruise now. Once they've done it once with their family, that's it really. They're booking all the time because there is something there for every age group. I mean, things like it's changed. A lot of the shows were very. Don't quite know how to explain it, but obviously the shows now. Sorry.
I was going to say naff.
Yeah. No, but back in the day, the shows were, you know, lots of dancers and men in tights and things like that. But obviously now you've actually got, you know, you've got rock concerts, you've got all sorts, you know. So the entertainment has really just changed completely. You know, you can have acrobats and all sorts, like we saw on Virgin Voyages, for example. I mean, that was really different.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I mean, obviously technically everything's changed. I mean, they've got so many more things they can use to make things just like a Broadway show, and that's exactly what they are. You're seeing a Broadway show in the comfort of your own floating palace, basically.
Well, I mean, Virgin Voyages just launched this year, so that's a new cruise line. But I mean, I guess it's also been an increase in, you know, you mentioned that back 40 odd years ago when you were in a high street travel agency, there was barely any choice in cruises. So I guess that's obviously something that's, you know,
there was literally a handful, if that, you know, and yeah, so as I say, the excitement and the dread as well, because booking a cruise, it was because we didn't do it very often. Oh my goodness, it was so many questions you used to have to ask that you weren't used to asking as well. And yeah, it was. I was always quite nervous if I booked a cruise, thinking, "Oh, I hope I've booked it right." And of course, back in those days, you didn't even have a private. On some of the ships, you didn't even have a private bathroom, for example. You used to have to go down the corridor and share one in the lower grades, of course. And yeah, so things like that, when you think how that's changed, for example, is, you know, people would be horrified the fact they had to walk up on a deck with your dressing gown on and your curlers in your hair.
Yeah, that must make getting ready for formal night quite challenging.
Yes.
Yeah, but I guess that's another thing that's changed. I think you know, it's not so many formal nights nowadays, or you know,
no,
I think it's become a lot more relaxed.
Yes, yeah. And people have got to feel relaxed. They've got to,
yeah.
So people don't go overboard like they used to. I mean, it used to be really overboard again back in the day. Probably people would spend hours getting ready for a formal evening, and now I find them better because they're more relaxed. You know, still there's dress codes, but it's a more of a relaxed atmosphere.
Yeah.
If you like, not so much pomp and ceremony. So that's, I prefer that personally.
Yeah. Well, I still like getting dressed up.
I know you do.
Bring enough shoes with me,
including your feather boa.
Yeah. So I mean, okay, I guess we've just been like, you know, looking at the past, but I mean, this year has been incredibly challenging. I think it'd be fair to say that it's the most difficult that you and the wider travel industry has experienced. So what do you think you've learned from this year, or how do you think you have been able to deal with it without, I guess, going completely insane? Well, I'm assuming you haven't. I mean, it's hard to tell with you.
Well, obviously the priority, as it always is with us, no matter what it is the client. So looking after the clients first, reassuring everybody. Our clients have been absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So we've been so lucky when I've heard of some of the not so nice things that some agencies have had to deal with. So I class myself as very lucky. So yeah, looking after them and actually getting to know them a bit more, really. That's been interesting. But certainly of late, there's definitely now a pickup. You know, I mean, Saturday, for example, when was that? 2 days ago, I was really busy. We did lots of bookings. So, you know, people are now getting the confidence, and with the vaccine that hopefully will be here at the end of the year, maybe the beginning of next year, but that has given people hope and confidence. And also what I'm absolutely loving about not just cruise companies actually, but that they're offering these flexible booking terms, which I think is excellent. So somebody can book, and if they don't want to go for any reason, this is obviously just some of the lines, but you can change your mind. So you're not living in dread of, oh, will it go, won't it go? You can actually think, well, I don't want to go at the moment, I'm going to transfer it. So that has been a huge plus. You know, it helps me as well. It helps, you know, our team as well, because, you know, we can just take a booking and say, well, if you change your mind, don't worry. They know we'll look after them anyway. So, and they trust us. And that's the big thing, I think. It's proved quite a lot, the trust that people have, you know, given to us. You know,
it's humbling.
You know, very privileged for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's always nice to have something to look forward to in the diary, especially like now when, you know, you can't even go to a restaurant. It's nice to have something like on the horizon. And yet, you know, if you are still worried, it's good to be able to have that flexibility to sort of not feel like you're, you know, you kind of feel, well, your money's not going to be sort of really, you know, it's going to be safe.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, so what are your...
It's funny, on my Facebook today popped up a memory from last year where we were on the lovely Hebridean Princess.
I saw that.
And the last cruise of 2019. That was absolutely fabulous. Those times we'll be back. And I'm looking forward to it again. You know, like many of the clients, so many clients are just absolutely desperate to get back on a cruise ship. And and I'm, you know, they're booking for 21 and 22 is getting more popular now. So definitely doing much better now. I'm feeling, you know, we've got, shall I say, the worst of it done, where everything was being cancelled.
Oh God, that was horrendous.
Yeah, that was horrendous. And we were working like 14, 15-hour days, 7 days a week, weren't we?
Yeah,
and
it was fun.
But that was that's why I've got all the wrinkles now. And
no, you had them before,
so that's been done. Sorry?
Nothing, I didn't say anything about you having them before.
Oh. Well, now they're wrinkled with laughter now because things are getting better.
So, I mean, what are your thoughts or expectations for when cruising can safely resume, whenever that is? Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Well, one thing I know for sure, when they get going, I know that it will be extremely safe cruising. I mean, just reading some of the protocols that they're all going to be rolling out, it's going to be very safe. Well, I would certainly go back on a cruise, that's for sure. You know, I've got no hesitation there at all. And I think they've done the right thing. They paused cruising and they're getting all their ducks in a row. And it will be very, very safe. And I think people will be very confident, feeling relaxed. Interestingly, I read on a cruising forum, a couple had gone away on a cruise about 3 months ago, actually. He'd never cruised before. And it was lovely to read his review, because he said he never felt so safe. He said it's like being in one big bubble. And so that's good to hear it. And that was obviously a few months ago. So, as I say, with the vaccine, that's going to help. But I mean, ships are so hygienically clean anyway, the crew before all this. And, you know, so it's just going to get better and better. It's going to be a lot of hard work for the ship's crew. And they shouldn't be forgotten about, because they will have a lot of work to do. I you know, turnaround days for crews going to be, they'll be, well, working 24/7 to get that turnaround done, which is absolutely vital. And of course, when people are on and off the ships now for touring, you know, taking an excursion or whatever, as soon as those people have left their cabins, they're going to be ultra cleaned and sprayed and all sorts as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been speaking to some of the cruise lines throughout this virtual cruise festival, and I know some of them have, during this time of the pause, they've actually been getting this sort of like sort of spray that coats all the surfaces, so that it sort of kills off any bacteria, any germs, and
Yep.
and it
We've got some
remains sterile.
shop, haven't we?
Yeah, yeah, I've bought some for my flat.
We've got lots of cans that would obviously not as good as they would have, but yeah, we've got the spray cans, haven't we, in the shop? So if somebody comes in, the handles, everything gets sprayed, the chairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got to be safe.
Definitely. But I mean, you have been incredibly lucky to experience some amazing cruise ships. Some with me, some with Dad, some with yourself. Which would you say is your favourite?
Oh, I don't like that question. From a ship point of view, it's got to be Regent Seven Seas, and it's got to be Splendor. But as you know, I'm more of an itinerary person.
Yeah.
So favourite ship and how it works and the space and the service. For me, I would say Regent Seven Seas. If somebody said, right, which ship do you want to go on? But as you know, it's also about itineraries. So if a ship, I don't care what sort of ship it is, going to somewhere where I want to go to, that's fine by me too. You know, it's all about, you know, expectations really.
Yeah.
You know, and again with clients, you know, they've got expectations.
So what advice would you give to someone who has never cruised before?
Take the plunge. But not literally.
There's a polar plunge in the Antarctica, you can do that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you've got to find out what holidays they normally take. Do they go to boutique hotels? Do they go to big all-inclusive resorts? So that's important, because then you roughly know the size and the sort of ship they're after. So that's what we try to do. I think then so many people say, oh, I want to try a cruise, just 2 nights. Well, I disagree with that personally, because in 2 nights you cannot really get the feel of a proper cruise. So I would say a minimum of 5 nights, and then a maximum probably of 7 if they're a bit nervous about it. I mean, as I say, that first cruise that I remember, I only went 7 nights on that, and that was probably by day 3, 4, you know, you're really getting into it then. So I don't agree with the 2 and 3 nighters personally, and it's not something that we generally advise. And also a lot of the 2 nighters tend to be party cruises, which is absolutely fine, they're great, but it's not giving somebody who hasn't cruised a proper idea of what cruising's like. Because party cruises don't, unless you're on Virgin Voyages, of course, party cruises are 2 nights, they don't go on for 7 nights, you know. So yeah, that would be my advice. And obviously just to go through everything, make sure we answer all their questions. Not so many people ask about seasickness now, which is funny, because we both suffer from seasickness. But so funny, that's not a question really so much now. And very often they'll come in the shop and they think it's going to be expensive, then they get a very nice surprise when it's actually not expensive, you know, when you add everything up. So, and it usually works out cheaper than, say, a land holiday, you know, because of all the other expenses you have on a land holiday, you know.
So would you say that's perhaps one of the biggest misconceptions about cruise is the price, or are there any others that you would most like to change, you know, or correct people on?
Well, I think pricing, yes. I do think that so many people still think it's stuffy. They still, it's hard if you haven't been on a ship to explain exactly what it's like. But so many people think they're going to be a bit like your dad, a bit, in clothes, won't be, and it's so opposite to that. And I can still remember, the staff that have worked for me over the years. My first, what I used to love doing was taking them on their very first ship visit when I hadn't been on a ship, and just watching their faces. And that's probably one of my favourite things I used to love doing, taking them down on a ship. But yeah, funny enough, I had a dream last night that I went on a ship just to take some photographs. And I was with Ben. And so we went up to the pool area because I wanted to take some photos up there. And then I suddenly realised it was moving. And we ended up doing a week's cruise because we couldn't get off. And they had to find me a cabin in the crew quarter.
Yeah, perhaps that's a sign you're missing cruise too much.
Yep.
Yeah. Can't believe you took Ben and not me. But I mean, you are very well travelled. And throughout this virtual cruise festival, we have actually featured some of the destinations that you've been lucky enough to visit, such as the Brahmaputra and Galapagos. So what would you like to share from, some of your experiences from these places? This is like time for Rachel's tales now.
Well, first of all, I've got to say about the Galapagos, it has been on the top of my bucket list for probably about 20 years actually. And then me and your dad decided, right, we're going to do it now because you can't keep putting things off.
No.
So we did it, and I have to say it was absolutely mind-blowing. It was, I find it very hard to actually describe it, because to use a corny thing, it's like no place on earth. And that the wildlife and how tame it was just amazing. And I've still got my 4,000 photos to still sort through. I did snorkeling there, which I have to say, though I don't mind the water at all, I don't like the sea, because believe it or not, I don't like fish. They frighten me to death. And so with all my gear on, I said to your dad, don't force me. I will try and do it in my own time. So I walked backwards as you do in the water, and I thought, right, here goes nothing. Because if I see a fish, I'm either going to die of a heart attack or I'm going to be all right. And within about one moment, I saw this beautiful rainbow fish. And I realised there was nothing to be scared of anymore. And it was just absolutely, it was lovely. And then especially when this little baby seal came up to me and looked into my mask, it was beautiful. No, I absolutely loved it. And the boobies birds, I can't remember the name of them. They're blue or red boobies.
They're blue-footed boobies.
Yeah. That's it. And the blue-footed boobies, they're amazing. I got some great videos of them. Yeah. We also, prior to going to the Galapagos, we tagged on a couple of nights in Lima, which is amazing, lovely, lovely city. And then of course Machu Picchu. And we were very lucky because it was a completely clear sky, blue sky. So that was really, really great.
Yeah, because in Machu Picchu it can be a bit pricey.
Yeah. And then as for Brahmaputra, again, that was an incredible trip. You really are going to villages that have never seen a tourist. Half of them haven't seen anybody outside their village. And again, the wildlife there, the Kazaranga National Park, that was fantastic. And that sort of cruise, although you're up early, it was so relaxing, and you're with people though that are really interested in the same things. I mean, the culture. I could have stayed all day taking photographs in the villages. Well, I probably did actually. And then my other favourite has got to be the Irrawaddy, having done that twice. that is and I would do it again. I would do the Brahmaputra again as well, actually, because these sort of things you don't see the same thing twice.
No.
And you know, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think also sometimes when you go to those sort of really remote places, like you say, it's really about seeing the local life, and it's such a sort of difference to what we, you know, our daily lives. But it's I think really humbling, but it's also I think that's what you and I both love about travel, is the authenticity that you know, when you go to these places, and like you say, it's not going to be the same twice, or you know, you could just keep going back to a lot of these sort of destinations. And but we are big fans of like going to Asia.
Also seeing how very very basically they live, but they live as a community, and the atmosphere is lovely, and the children, you know, and also you learn about the different religions. That was really really interesting, seeing how they celebrate different things. So yeah, I just thought it's magical, and it's certainly it's sort of I don't know what to say now.
Well, I don't know what was going on in your head, so
no, the more far-flung places the better for me, definitely. And still I want to do the Ganges. That is
we need to do that
on my list. Well, we were supposed to do it back in March, and then lockdown, so we couldn't go. And I would love to do Ganges without a doubt. And I love India, absolutely love India. So yeah, that's back on the list, because I've lost nearly a year of traveling this year, so major catch-ups.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks, Mum, for you know, giving us some of your time to share, you know, Rachel's reminiscences. And so I hope people enjoyed that. Who knows?
Who knows? Never mind.
I'm sure Nanny will when I send her the link.
You forced me to do this because you know I hate the camera.
Yeah.
Getting your own back on me.
Yeah.
Well, I would just like to say, actually, Amy, you've done a beautiful job with this, and it was your idea, your project, and I let you run with it.
Yeah.
And you put in a lot of hours. You put in a lot of hours, but it's absolutely fantastic. Really well done.
Yeah. Oh, you need to answer that now. So thanks, Mum. Bye.